I'm male 29, never thought I'd be sharing this story, but it's been 6 months since everything happened, and I think I'm finally ready to talk about it. Last year, I discovered my girlfriend of 5 years was cheating on me through the most random notification on her iPhone. But that was just the beginning of the deception. We'd been together since senior year of college. For 5 years, we built what I thought was a solid relationship. We had the same friend group, went on vacations together, and had even started talking about marriage. I was planning to propose on our upcoming trip to Costa Rica, had already bought the ring and everything. I thought I knew her completely. The day it happened started like any other Saturday. My girlfriend was in the shower getting ready for brunch with her friends. I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone, trying to decide if I should go for a run or just be lazy for the morning. Her phone was on the nightstand, charging, when a notification lit up the screen. It was a message preview from someone named Mike Work. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again on Tuesday when he's at his conference. Now, I wasn't the type to snoop through her phone. I'd never felt the need to before. But that message, it stopped my heart cold. I knew exactly what conference Mike was referring to. I had a 3-day business trip coming up on Tuesday. When she came out of the shower, I confronted her immediately, showing her the notification. Her face went through this series of expressions: surprise, then confusion, then this awful attempt at looking innocent. "Oh, that's just about a work project," she said, reaching for her phone. "Mike's on my team for this big presentation next week." I wanted to believe her. God, I desperately wanted it to be a misunderstanding, but something in her eyes didn't match her words. I'd never seen that look before, this mixture of panic and calculation. "Let me see the full conversation, then," I said. "That's an invasion of privacy. Don't you trust me?" she countered, holding her phone against her chest. That's when I knew. 5 years of trust shattered in an instant. If she had nothing to hide, showing me would have been the easiest way to clear things up. "How long has it been going on?" I asked, my voice oddly calm despite the hurricane in my chest. She tried denial for another few minutes before finally breaking down. "It's not what you think," she said, tears forming. "It just happened a couple of times. It didn't mean anything." A couple of times. Didn't mean anything. The words cut deeper than any knife could. "Who is he?" I asked. "Just a guy from work," she mumbled, looking at the floor. "It started at the holiday party 3 months ago." 3 months. While I was planning our future, picking out a ring, she was sneaking around with some guy from her office. I walked out of the apartment without saying another word. I needed air, needed to think. I spent the day wandering around the city, ignoring her frantic calls and texts. When I finally returned that night, I was prepared to have a real conversation, to understand how we'd gotten to this point. But what I discovered next made the initial betrayals seem minor in comparison. When I got home, she was asleep on the couch, her phone on the coffee table. I know what I did next was wrong, but at that point, I felt I had a right to know the full truth. I picked up her phone, and to my surprise, it unlocked with my fingerprint. She hadn't removed me from her trusted contacts. What I found was far worse than I imagined. The text with Mike went back not just 3 months, but over a year. And Mike wasn't the only one. There was also Jason, Jim, and Chris from marketing. 3 separate affairs, all happening simultaneously, all while I was completely clueless. I scrolled through message after message, each one more devastating than the last. Plans made around my schedule, jokes at my expense, even discussions about how she wasn't sure about our relationship but didn't want to give up the stability I provided. I was her safety net, her fallback option, while she lived a completely different life behind my back. The next few hours were a blur. I remember waking her up, showing her the phone, watching her face crumple as she realized there was no more lying her way out of this. I remember the pathetic excuses, the tears, the begging. But mostly I remember the strange sense of clarity I felt. "I need you to leave," I told her. "What? This is my apartment too," she protested. "The lease is in my name. You have until morning to pack what you need. I'll put the rest of your things in storage." She tried everything: tears, anger, manipulation, even attempting to blame me for being emotionally unavailable and forcing her to look elsewhere. But I was beyond being gaslit. The evidence was right there in black and white, hundreds of messages spanning over a year. That night, as she packed her bags, frantically calling friends to find a place to stay, I sat in our living room staring at the walls, wondering how I could have been so blind. The photos of us smiling on vacation, the mementos we'd collected together, all of it felt like props in some elaborate play I didn't realize I was acting in. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. She launched a campaign to control the narrative with our friends. According to her, I had violated her privacy, acted irrationally, and thrown her out without giving her a chance to explain. Some mutual friends actually took her side, suggesting I should have been more understanding or willing to work things out. But the evidence on that phone was irrefutable. I forwarded some of the more damning messages to myself before giving her back her phone. When the rumors started getting too wild, I showed those messages to our closest friends. I didn't want to be petty, but I also wasn't going to let her paint me as the villain in this story. The most painful part wasn't even the betrayal itself, but realizing that the person I thought I knew better than anyone was essentially a stranger. How do you process that? How do you trust your own judgment again after missing so many red flags? Looking back now, there were signs I ignored. The sudden password changes on her phone, the way she'd always place it face down, the girls' nights that ran suspiciously late, the new clothes and lingerie I never saw her wear, the increased hours at work, all classic signs that I was too trusting to recognize. About a month after our breakup, I received a lengthy email from her. She claimed to have started therapy, said she realized she had deep-seated issues with commitment and self-worth that had driven her behavior. She wanted another chance, promised things would be different. For a brief, weak moment, I considered it. Not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted to believe that the 5 years hadn't been a complete lie. That somewhere in there, she had genuinely loved me the way I loved her. I never responded to that email, or the ones that followed, or the drunk texts that came in the middle of the night, alternating between apologies and accusations. 6 months later, I'm still processing everything. I moved to a new apartment, unable to stay in a place filled with so many memories. I've been to therapy myself, trying to understand why I ignored the signs, why I was so willing to see only what I wanted to see. Dating still feels impossible. The thought of being that vulnerable again, of potentially being fooled again, is terrifying. But I'm working on it, one day at a time. As for my ex, I heard through mutual friends that she's already in a new relationship. I genuinely hope she's changed for his sake. No one deserves to go through what I did. The strangest part of all this is that random iPhone notification. If Mike hadn't texted at that exact moment, if I hadn't happened to glance at her phone, how much longer would the deception have continued? Would I have gone through with the proposal? Would we have gotten married, built a life, had children, all while she maintained her secret affairs? I don't have those answers. All I know is that as painful as the discovery was, I'm grateful for it. The truth, no matter how devastating, is always better than living a lie. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking stories.